myths, gods, and stories of the Maya. The Popol Vuh and the memory of origin. What if the ancient myths never tried to explain the past, but rather to remind us who we are? When we think of ancient civilizations, we usually imagine temples, observatories, calendars, or advanced knowledge. But there is something even more intimate: the stories that a civilization told itself. Because myths, more than entertainment, were maps of the universe, maps of the soul, maps to understand why we are here. Hundreds of years ago, in a region that today corresponds mainly to southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and part of Honduras, one of the most fascinating civilizations in history flourished, the Maya. And among the texts that managed to survive, there is one that continues to raise questions to this day: the Popol Vuh, known as the Book of the Council, or the Book of the Community, a story preserved by oral tradition, and later written in the Quiche language after the conquest period. But here something interesting appears. For the Maya, this was not simply literature. It was memory. It was a way of remembering the origin of the world, the origin of humankind, and the place of consciousness within the cosmos. The story begins with something surprising. There were no people. There were no animals. There were no mountains. There was no land. Only the sky existed, and the sea. Silence, darkness, potential, and then the creative forces appear. Heart of heaven, heart of earth, not as human figures, but as living principles of creation. And together, they begin to imagine. They speak. They create. They name. And the world begins to exist. Stop for a moment. What an interesting idea. Creating through words. Creating through intention. Creating through consciousness. Not building. No, to conquer. To imagine. And then to name. A long time later, some modern researchers have observed something curious. Greg Braden often speaks of ancient traditions that understood that language. Emotion and perception participate in the way we experience reality, while José Luis Parise explores how different initiatory cultures used symbols, stories, and language structures as tools for internal transformation. This doesn't mean that the Popol Vuh is describing modern physics, but it does open a question. Why did so many ancient cultures associate creation with word and consciousness? Then another fascinating moment appears. The creators try to form human beings, first from clay, but they crumble. Then from wood, but they survive without remembering, without feeling, without gratitude. And finally, a humanity made of corn is born. Not just any material. Corn. That which nourished. That which sustained life. That which connected community, nature, time, and survival. Today, it might seem strange, but perhaps the question is different. If we had to tell our origin story, would we say that we were born from knowledge, from work, from technology, Or would we also choose something that nourishes our existence? Here another interesting perspective appears. Matthias de Stefano often explores how different ancient traditions understood the human being as an inseparable expression of their environment, where territory, memory, and consciousness form part of the same experience. And although that interpretation does not belong directly to the Popol Vuh, yes, it creates an interesting bridge. Because for the Maya, humanity didn't seem separate from the world. It seemed to emerge from it. And then two figures appear that continue to spark curiosity. The hero twins, two brothers who embark on a journey to the underworld, but not to conquer, but to undergo trials, to learn, to transform, to return. Many scholars interpret this journey as a symbolic process, dying to an old version, overcoming fear, remembering, rebirth. And here a beautiful question arises. How many times in our lives have we felt that something is ending, only to discover later that it was the beginning of another stage? Perhaps that's why these stories remain alive. Not because they describe historical events, but because they describe human experiences, losing, changing, searching, returning. And there is something more. The Maya observed the sky. They recorded cycles. They constructed alignments. But perhaps all of that wasn't just astronomy. Perhaps it was also a way of remembering that life moves in stages, that there are moments of expansion, moments of pause, moments of darkness, and moments of rebirth. Today we live surrounded by information, but perhaps we are still searching for exactly the same thing. To understand who we are, where we come from, and where we want to go. Perhaps that's why we keep reading these stories. Because beneath the names, beneath the symbols, beneath time, we continue to find ourselves. And in the next episode, we will explore one of the most fascinating themes: time, consciousness, and the relationship that the Maya constructed between cycles, observation, and human experience.